Okay. Again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City of Fresno's February 4th meeting at Fresno City Hall. So welcome, everyone, and can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Baines, Councilmember Brand, Councilmember Brandow, Councilmember Olivier, Councilmember Quintero, here. Councilmember Soria, Council President Capriolio.
Thank you very much. Okay, Larry Salinas, did you want to say something before we officially get going? I know you have a busy schedule today. Nice to see you again, sir.
Nice to see you, Council Member. Good afternoon, members of the Council. My name is Larry Salinas, and I am the new Executive Director of Government Relations at California State University Fresno, working for Dr. Castro. And I'm here today to introduce myself to some and to the community and to say I'm glad to be back home. I'm a product of Fresno State and Fresno High School graduate. And I look forward to working with you as the liaison from the university and on behalf of the president to extend his best wishes to be able to foster and continue to foster the great relationship we have with the city of Fresno and with each of you. And that's all I have to say for now, and just look forward to working with you.
Thank you. And that great university is in that great District 4.
That's correct. So
absolutely.
That's
so
well,
thank you very much
for your time, and I wish you guys a great meeting. So,
thank you. Thanks for being here. Next, we'll do the invocation. Reverend Arce from the Fresno Rescue Mission. Welcome, sir. We'd all stand, and then we'll salute the flag immediately after the invocation.
Precious Father, I thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to be able to stand at this dais. Lord, I only ask three things of you, Father, that you would make us humble before you in all the things that we do and the things that we're being asked to make decisions on. I also ask that we would be faithful for the things that you've placed before us, Lord, that we be faithful to our constituents, faithful to this community, and faithful to all the things that you place before us. And then lastly, Lord, to be obedient to the calling that you've given us. Lord, we know that no matter what we do, there'll be some that'll be against and some will be for. But in all things that we do, Lord, we want to glorify you and honor you. And so we thank you for this privilege of being able to serve you and serve this community. And so, Lord, I leave you now at this time and ask that you just have your presence in this meeting, and everything that's conducted, Lord, would benefit the community and benefit everyone for your glory and for your honor. And we give you thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Arce. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Next, Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda? Thank you again, Reverend Arce.
I have a change. I'm sorry.
No changes?
I do, yes.
Thank you.
Item 1G is subject to mayor's veto. It doesn't notate that on the agenda, but it is subject to mayor's veto. And there is no 2A on the agenda today.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Member Soria, second by Member Baines. All those in favor? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandow absent. Next, we have kind of the fun part of the afternoon, and that's the SPCA Pet of the Month, or I should say Pets of the Month. We have two delightful puppies and a very calm, collected kitty cat. So, Member Baines, did you want to do the honors this morning?
Well, what we do?
Afternoon? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, why don't you go with him? Member Sawyer is going to help you out there since we have several pets for this month. I think they're fighting over the puppies right away. So
No, well, we were, and I lost the battle apparently.
I think Buddy needs a
She
friend.
laid claim to the puppy right away. So, well, I haven't done this in a long time, but obviously these are two beautiful animals, and unfortunately, three beautiful animals, and unfortunately, Councilmember Brandau is in here, so we're going to just get the cat for him.
Yes.
Since he's not here, he's going to take the cat. He would have loved the cat. He is a cat lover, by the way. I have a few dogs, both about that size. So make sure my wife doesn't see this broadcast right now, because she'll be calling you up personally. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add about the animals?
Sure. Well, these little guys right here are looking for foster homes, and they're about 2 weeks away from adoption. They have to be a certain age and a certain weight in order to go through for surgery, of course. This little cat over here is called Elle Woods, and she's about 4 months old. She's getting over a little cold, but she's absolutely adorable. She's a great little cat and has 3 other siblings over at the shelter. At this time of the year, we receive a lot of puppies and kitties just like this, and we definitely need the help out there. Spread the word. We need foster families, or just adopt them. You know, it's saving a life over there at the shelter. And we do have an incredible adoption special on Saturday, and it goes for about a week, $39 to adopt a dog just like this. So, spread the word, help us out. We're your local animal shelter, and we're located over there at 103 South Hughes. Autograph kitty.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, members. Appreciate that. I think Buddy needs a partner, Member Soria. Okay, next we'll address our minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes of January 28th? There are no changes. Could I have a motion on approving those minutes? Motion by Member Brent, seconded by me. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandau absent. Next, we have council member comments and reports. Council member Quintero.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Manager, just wanted to see if you could pass the word along for us in District 5. Monday morning when we came in, we just had a ton of emails from constituents that live closer to the Sunnyside area, and just a real big problem with the homeless situation as well as trash throughout parts of the area over there. And we contacted the Southeast police folks with Lieutenant Salazar and his team and everything. And I want to tell you that the response was tremendous. On behalf of the PD, we followed up with all the homeowners, passed the information along, and there was some arrests that were made that were very good arrests of folks that PD had been looking for a long time. But it was just a great response. They got right on it, and they were very the units in Southeast were actually followed up with phone calls of some of the property owners that we got emails. So it was just a tremendous job. It's not completely taken care of, and as you know, the rotation continues of the folks going from one place to another. But they were able to get some of the areas that were filled with trash cleaned up, and got the folks moved in. As I said, more importantly, they were able to get some folks that were arrested and dealing and that type of thing. So it was a lot of illegal stuff. It was just really great. So if you'll let the chief know as well that they did a tremendous job, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Soria.
Thank you, Council President. I have a few just reports to make. I did visit Fresno State the day before yesterday. So I do want to also welcome Larry Salinas. Thank you for being here for your introduction, and we're excited to actually have someone that is originally here from the Valley, being able to continue to strengthen the relationship between us. But I did get a chance to visit the actual Department of Health and Human Services. In particular, met with Dr. Ajjan from the Communicative Disorders and Deaf Studies. I learned about a number of resources that they have. They actually do free hearing exams for not only the students, but actually for community members at large, so that was very exciting. In addition to that, I also learned that they have a mobile health unit, which I think is great, and hopefully I will be partnering up with the department to provide some services in District 1 and really get the students involved. In addition, I just want to mention that the College of Health and Human Services is going to have a lecture in the Silent Garden, and this is an event that is targeting Latino families to talk about the issue of communicative disorders, including being deaf or having someone in your family being deaf, and also the resources available. So that is going to take place later this month, February 26th, at the North Gym at Fresno State at 7:30 a.m. through 1 p.m. So just wanted to make sure that the residents here of Fresno know about this lecture, and if you have families here in the Valley that maybe could benefit from attending this lecture and learning about some of these really important issues, please encourage them to attend. I also wanted to report that on Monday, I had the appointees for my 3 committees that I get to appoint, which is my District 1 Implementation Committee, my Tower District Design Review Committee, and also members from BPAC. I know Andrew Bellini is in the audience. He attended as well. And so it was just an evening of appreciation, because these people are volunteers serving on their own time, after hours, giving to the community, giving their perspective. So we were able to recognize all of them, having a little reception in the district, and so we want to thank them again for all the work that they do throughout the year. Many of them actually have served 20 to 30 years in this committee, so giving their valuable resident perspective. So we want to thank them again. Then I just want to make an announcement that Mardi Gras is taking place this Sunday at 1 p.m. in the Tower District. So if you don't have plans, and if you want to come out before the Super Bowl, because it is Super Bowl Sunday, we want to encourage folks to turn out. This parade is very well attended. We have thousands of people that come out, not only from the city of Fresno, but surrounding communities. It is a very fun event. I will be participating. I have an entry. I will be riding my bike. Many of you guys know that through when I was running for office, I rode my bike around when I would canvass, and so I'll be trying to continue the tradition and riding my bike. And so I'll be joining a number of folks that are bike riders or cyclists in our community in one of the entries. So invite all of you guys to go out. And then the last thing that I just want to mention, I serve on the Latino Caucus League of Cities Executive Board, and I was in San Diego. We had our board retreat, and I'm very proud to be a board member and be able to give the perspective of the city of Fresno, because some of the other board members do include people from LA or from San Diego, Sacramento, so they have a different perspective. So being able to impact state policy through that group is a great thing. And so I just wanted to report back that we had a very productive meeting, and hope to continue sharing the perspective of Fresno and be able to advocate on behalf of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Baines.
Thanks, Mr. President. First off, Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'd like to ask that we adjourn today's memory in memory of Armelia O. Harrison Green. That is my chief of staff's aunt, who had a long bout with cancer and succumbed to that last week. So if you would be so kind to do that.
Absolutely.
And then I wanted to ask first, and then secondly, which is extremely important that I can't go without mentioning, is my friend Larry Salinas, who gave me a lint brush because he saw how the cat assaulted me with fur. And so you are a scholar and a gentleman, my friend. The fact that you carry a lint brush in your car on demand is awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and this really highlights the relationship that we have with Fresno State. Obviously, this is a beacon of hope right here in the lint brush. So thank you, Mr. Salinas. But all kidding aside, really appreciate it. I was wondering what I was going to do. My friend, President Capriello, reminded me that the cat has not learned how to lick himself properly and clean himself of all excess fur. So that's what that was for. On a more serious note, though, City Manager, I received some information today about some lead in some water systems. I know that there was a press release sent out. I've already received a couple of calls concerning that. In the press release, I know it says that for the most part, we believe that it's concentrated to a few homes up in Northeast Fresno. But questions I have about that are if, in fact, citizens in other areas of the city want their water tested or maybe have concerns with, discoloration in the water, what would be the process for anyone else who may notice something in their system?
Well, thank you. And again, the testing that has been conducted is outside our normal protocols. We have tested our water system on an ongoing basis throughout the community. I want to assure everyone that this is an isolated case. What we have been doing is following up on complaints from a particular part of Northeast Fresno, primarily around the Woodward Lake area, related to discoloration or rust that seems to be appearing in the water, especially when people first turn the water on. That is a breakdown, or that's corrosion, generally to galvanized pipes or pipes. It is iron. It has nothing to do with lead. Lead would not leave any kind of discoloration. And it is indicative of what appears to be just age and the associated pipeline from the water meter into the house or somewhere in the home. Nevertheless, as a result of testing for what's causing the discoloration, there were 2 locations that were identified that also came up positive for lead or over the approved threshold. We are following up with the homeowners. We're also going to be conducting additional tests in the short term, while we have every reason to believe that the source of the contamination is not the surface water treatment plant or any of the underlying infrastructure, because it's relatively new infrastructure. In most cases, we weren't using black iron or galvanized. This is development that was built in the 80s. We have shut down the Northeast plant, and we're providing that neighborhood or that part of the community with all groundwater. Again, just to eliminate for precautionary measures that the source could be coming from the treatment plant. As far as any precautions that people should take, in my discussions with DPU as well as representatives from the Water Resource Board, the best thing to do is just run your water and let it purge a little bit, let it run a little bit. And then as far as discoloration, again, it has nothing to do with the lead contamination that we found. And if our people are concerned, I'll let Mark expand on what the contact, but they can reach out to our Public Utilities Department, and we certainly will follow up. But I want to assure the public that this is not like other cities where the cause of the contamination is as a result of a wholesale failure of the underlying water system and infrastructure. This is isolated to maybe 2 homes at the most, and was done or found as a result of tests being conducted to deal with discoloration issues. So, Mark, is there anything else you want to add and you want to share with the public, because they're also listening in?
Very good. Council President, Council members, thank you. Mark Standriff, Director of Communications, Public Affairs, City of Fresno. You and your staff should already have received some information on this, along with an FAQ that answers many of these questions. I've gone around to each one of your individual chiefs of staff or staff members to get the chance to kind of brief them on what we feel are the most important particulates there. But as we're finding, and as City Manager Rudd just stated a minute ago, we find that this is isolated for the most part inside the homes, that all of our testing of the water that comes out of our treatment plants, from the groundwater wells, through the pipes, through the street mains, and actually from the meter into the house, are clean. They've all tested well. We've checked with the folks from the State Water Resources Control Board as well as the EPA. Our testing comes up clean every step of the way. So we find that it's isolated in the homes. What we're doing is trying to see, is there something in the corrosion chemical mixture that we have coming out of the surface water that may be accelerating a little bit of corrosion, because that corrosion takes place when those pipes sit dormant. The softer water, which has no minerals, when it's left there in a hot water tank or inside the plumbing inside your pipes, is saying, oh, wait a minute here, I'm short on minerals, so I'm going to grab this iron, grab some lead from over here, some copper, some zinc, or what have you. The discoloration comes from the iron. That's the canary in the coal mine. That lets us know that other minerals may be present. So if your constituents are worried, ask them if they have any discoloration in their water. No, then it should not be an issue, because our water is deemed to be clean. But the bottom line is, we want everybody to be sure that we have a safe, reliable, and clean water supply here in the city of Fresno. Tommy Escueda, our Director of Public Utilities, had said he wants those folks that have real concerns about this to contact him directly. So his number is 621-8610. Happy to field those calls. He's now out in the field right now talking to the households where we did detect some traces of lead, to make sure we walk them through what our scenario is and what the solutions may be for them. So, and if you have any other questions, I'm happy to take them at this time.
None for you directly, Mark. I would say that my recommendation would be, and I did share this briefly with the mayor earlier, is one, we make sure we have an aggressive information campaign to all of our constituent bases. So we have a large non-English speaking population in this city, of a variety of dialects of languages that are spoken. We need to be making sure we're not only reaching out to mainstream media but ethnic media to make sure that all of these alerts are available and the information is out to every source possible. And also, I would figure out, and I don't know if you all may be planning to do this, but in the event that residents do want their water tested, are we doing that ourselves, or is that on them? So if they call Tommy, he can, because that's going to be the most important thing. I think, to everyone's point, we want to make sure that we are going to reassure our residents that we do have clean water, but we want to be able to, the proof is obviously in the pudding. And if they want to have their water tested, we need to make sure that there is a mechanism to do that for them should they have concerns. So that would be, those are just, again, my humble remarks on that, because like I said, I've already fielded a few calls. So thanks, Mark, for the input. Thanks, Bruce. Just wanted to get some of that on the record. Yeah, what was Tommy's phone number one more time? 621. We'll say that one more time, Mark, because that's a good idea.
In my best radio voice, 559-621-8610.
8610.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Mark. Lastly, a city manager, and I've talked with you about this briefly, but there was an opinion piece that was written last week by our consultant that did, I guess, the ethics review of the Fresno Police Department. There were some statements made in his opinion piece and article that are quite honestly factually incorrect, and in that he lays in his opinion, the blame of some of the issue with the Fresno Police Department at the feet of the City Council. Since then, I've made sure to reach out to our city attorney and asked our city attorney to contact him. And Doug, can you give us an update on what the response we received from this consultant was, please?
Yes, Michael Josephson was the firm out of Los Angeles that did the survey, and the purpose of the survey was to aid in ethics training at the police department. That was the only purpose of this survey. Our office did not authorize him to write this opinion piece. He said he was doing it to correct the record based upon an earlier story. But nonetheless, he said some things in this opinion piece that were not accurate. Specifically, he said that the City Council was responsible for fixing the problems in the police department. I spoke to him about that under our charter form of government, that would not be accurate. He agreed, and he offered to correct it. But at this point, I think it's probably best to leave it here that I think we all know and understand that the City Council is not, under our charter form of government, responsible for fixing problems in the police department, the operational issues.
Yeah, and Bruce, I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the last city council budget, we authorized something like 775 positions for the police department on our end based on your recommendation. So I just want the public to be reassured that we work cooperatively with what you all recommend to us as far as what the budget of the police department should be. And I don't think that we've ever tried to cut what you all recommend to us. So I think it was irresponsible on his part to make those comments about us. I wanted to make sure that we had something, that my colleagues and I had something on the record, and so the public knows and understands that he was wrong and, quite frankly, out of line for those remarks or comments. So, Council President, thank you for indulging me for as long as you have.
Thank you, sir. Member Brand?
Most of the stuff was covered by our city manager and Mark regarding the water problem. I just wanted to thank Tommy Escueda especially, because every time I received any complaint, any email, he immediately responded to it, even by phone call, by email. So the city staff has been exemplary in its response to this deal, and I want to thank Member Baines, too, for bringing it to the attention of the council. Just one item I want to do a follow-up on, going back 1 year to the Water Conservation Act that Paul Capriolio and myself wrote, that we asked that the trees in the parks, Woodward Park, Roding Park, be given special attention, and they're not. So I make another request that we, and I know we can get the water from the reclamation center and the sewer treatment plant to preserve those 30, 40, 50-year-old plus trees that are irreplaceable, as well as any other city or park. Okay? Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, and I join in that request as well. Thank you for bringing it forward. Councilmember Soria?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to ask Bruce, I know that I think I regularly ask about the Parks Master Plan, but I know that all the proposals were turned in January, so I just wanted to know, when do you guys anticipate bringing an award to the to the council for approval?
Probably in the first council meeting in March. We're in the process. I've reviewed them, and I've got a team that's not interviewing yet, but reviewing them. I want to schedule the interviews with the proposal so that we have a very thorough understanding, and they have a thorough understanding of what we're trying to achieve. So given the amount of work that still needs to be done with the review, interviews being scheduled, some of them are out of town, I would see the first week, maybe second week in March, when we'll come back with a recommendation as to who we'll award to.
Perfect. Could you tell us how many proposals we received?
We received 4 proposals from different firms.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Would any council member like to pull any item for discussion? And if we do pull it, we'll set it over to about 2:15 after our second timed item. Member Baines.
Yes, Council President, can I pull item 1E?
1E as in Edward. Any other council members? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the balance of the, well, let me take it off the public first. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on any item on our consent calendar? If so, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we will come back here and ask for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar? Motion by Member Baines. Seconded by Member Brand. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandow absent. Moving on to general administration. Well, let's take the 2 o'clock item since it's 2 o'clock. This is a plan amendment and rezone item. Staff?
Good afternoon, Council President Capriolio, council members, Will-Tackett, Development and Resource Management Department. Staff is presenting 1 modifications to its staff report. There was 1 error made in the title block of the council resolution for the plan amendment with respect to reference to the appropriate community plan and application number. So the resolution in front of you includes the revisions and corrections to that. Staff would adjust its recommendation accordingly. We do have a presentation available if the council so desires. Otherwise, we're available to field any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Would any council member like to comment on this 2 o'clock item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Take it out to the public. Anyone in the public like to discuss this item? Please state your name and thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, member of the council, Jeff Roberts, speaking on behalf of the owner of the property, Fowler Development. I want to state for the record that we do concur with the staff recommendation, with the Planning Commission recommendation, and with the, and I appreciate the staff catching both of these items up here today and having them on the same agenda because they're very related. So we do appreciate that. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public like to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, a motion by President Capriolio, seconded by Member Baines. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandau absent. We'll go, since the next timed item is 13 minutes away, we will go to General Administration. And that is General Administration 2B, Bureau of Reclamation. Staff? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Council President. Mike Carbajal, Department of Public Utilities. This item is a request to authorize the city to enter into a contract with the United States Bureau of Reclamation to accept non-storable flood release flows from Millerton Lake during water year 2016. The council previously approved a temporary water service contract on October 22nd, 2015 for the water year 2015, which ends at the end of this month on February 29th. The new contract will cover any flood release flows during the period March of 2016 to February 2017. Entering into the agreement does not obligate the city to accept any water or incur any cost. Notice of the available flood release flow could be received weeks or possibly only days before the water is available, so approval of the agreement is necessary for the city to be able to respond to the Bureau in time to receive the water. In the event that the city does receive any flood release water, Public Utilities will be coordinating with the Fresno Irrigation District and the Fresno Metropolitan Flood Control District for conveyance to available recharge facilities. Be available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take this out to the community. Is there anyone in our community that would like to come forward and address this item? Please do so. A lot of people out there. All right. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. There are Councilmember Brand.
Yeah, just a question. Is anything unusual? You know, this is an opportunity for the water delivery. Can you explain?
Right. So it's not unusual. It's there has been a large amount of precipitation this year, so the likelihood that that there could be a flood release from Millerton Lake goes up. Last time that there was a flood release was during the water year 2011. Obviously, during the drought, there hasn't been any flood flows. So this is just an opportunity for the city to be ready and entered into the contract to receive that water and to coordinate with the other agencies, the Irrigation District, Flood Control, to move that water to facilities like Leaky Acres or flood control storm detention basins for recharge purposes.
Well, it's good to know that we're actually in a position to have floodwaters. I assume this would be any time there's a lot of snow and the prospect of an early release, right? They're just trying to save the water. I mean, at this point in time, what's our capacity for storing water?
For storing water, our capacity is, we have over 200 acres out at
in terms of acre feet. In terms of acre feet.
In terms of acre feet, I don't know what we can get back to you as to how much water we could store in a pond, but we can recharge as much as 55,000 acre feet in a year if we had all of the facilities, plus coordinating with FID, with their facilities, and the flood control, through our agreements with Flood Control District.
But in a few years, hopefully, we'll have a lot more capacity with the Southeast Surface Water Treatment Plant available online.
Right. Well, Right. Commissioning the Southeast plant in 2018 will better position the city to use these available waters. So our contract, our CVP contract, this is a 60,000 acre foot Class 1 contract for water off the San Joaquin River, our contract with the Kings River, and then any available water such as these that would
I know in the
available.
past we've had to send back about, this is before the pre-drought years, about 80,000 acre feet that we just didn't have the capacity to store. So anyway, thank you for the explanation. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Brand. Motion by Member Brand, seconded by Member Baines. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandow absent. Next is 2C. Approve an agreement in the amount of $75,000 between the City of Fresno and the Fresno Business Council. Mayor's Office, City Manager.
Good morning, Council President, members of the Council. Larry Westerlin, Director of Department of Economic Development. We're very excited to bring this matter to you today. This is something that we've been working with here for a while, and I don't know if folks ever had a chance to get to the Manufacturing Summit that happened last year, but this is a continuation of really that incubation that's happened so far and a growth on that. There is actually a pretty vibrant, small but vibrant manufacturing sector in the city of Fresno. Outside of agricultural food processing, there are some 800 companies that categorize themselves as manufacturers. And it can be from Sunrise Medical that's making sophisticated motorized, computerized wheelchairs to the mom and pop or two guys in a pickup truck doing metalwork. But one of the things that we've seen and that we're excited about is that there's really no manufacturing association or business-oriented association that brings them all together to work together. And that's why this initiative is very exciting for us. We see these associations in other communities. They help foster more manufacturing and more growth of that particular sector. So that's why this is very exciting to us. We have been approached by the initiative to see if we would be willing to assist them for 1 year in developing and growing the sector and growing this initiative. It's privately led, which is something that appeals to us, and the private sector is investing in this as well. And we have seen the manufacturing summit that's already taking place. They're already working on their next manufacturing summit. And this is really to grow this part of our sector that I think has a tremendous amount of potential. One of the things that I've had an opportunity to look at while going through the Brookings Institute's export initiative, the Global Cities Initiative, is that we end up having a lot of assistance for agricultural and food processors on exporting. One of the sectors that we see the need is really our manufacturers who aren't directly related in food processing. So we're very excited about this. I will go ahead and turn it over to the chairman of the board and the chair of the Betts Corporation and have him speak with you in more detail.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Mike Betts, 2687 South Maple Avenue, Fresno.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Caprillo and members of the Fresno City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Again, I'm Mike Betts, Chairman and CEO of Betts Company, a 148-year-old manufacturing company, a sixth-generation California firm. I'm speaking today to you on behalf of the Advanced Manufacturing Cluster and the Fresno Business Council. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the city staff, both Larry Westerlin and Kelly Trevino. They have both been terrific partners and will be critical players as we move forward. The proposal before you is part of an integrated effort to strengthen the economy and workforce. That means industry, education, government, and students are all involved and working together. That's what makes this effort remarkable. We have crossed all barriers and brought everybody together for this common vision. We are building upon the great work that has gone on for decades and linking it together. This will allow us to leverage resources and achieve the outcomes we all want: a prosperous, inclusive, and world-class community. A critical element of success is having the resources to engage a terrific leader, develop assets, and conduct the kind of activities that will empower our companies to grow, more to start up, and attract new ones. At the same time, we are working with our educational partners to develop a world-class career and technical education ecosystem that will prepare people for the quality jobs we want to ensure, and for companies and people to have the skills that they need to grow. We encourage you to support the proposal and work with us to achieve our goals. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Betts. Thank you. We'll call you back if we have a question for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public like to speak on this issue? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we will go to the screen here, and I have Member Soria.
Thank you, Council President. So I just have a couple of questions. I do want to say thank you to Deborah for coming earlier to my office and speaking about what you guys are doing in terms of the initiative. I do actually have a couple questions that kind of going through the staff report were some things that I were thinking about in terms of our contributions as a city and really outcomes. And so I'm wondering, what are our deliverables? What are we going to measure in terms of this investment? So in terms of the $75,000, what is it that we'll be able to kind of report back maybe in the next year?
Well, Councilmember Soria, so while the and you don't have the contract because we had a draft contract. We're still working on some of the liability and indemnity clauses, which are more the lawyers working through it than not. So this was really putting the outline together on it. It's a one-year contract for $75,000. And the deliverables, what we would want to see particularly would be a very strong 100% or 99% of a manufacturing list of everybody that does manufacturing at any sort of level, that we would have a good list. One of the challenges, at least in my job, even though we look at and we download several databases, is really getting a strong list of those active manufacturers and getting a good list of how many employees they actually do have and what do they manufacture. And then that's one of the things that this business manager would work on to do. We'd see the growth in the job, the job summit. I think there were 400 folks that were here at the the manufacturing summit earlier this year. I think we're looking at well over that number coming up. So that would be another item. And we'd see a growth in participation of the partners that have been involved. So there are, and Mike, I thought you were going to cover this, but how many companies are now listed as partners?
We had 5 a year ago, and we're closing in on 100.
So there were 5 partners a year ago, and they're closing in on 100 manufacturers that are part of this initiative. So I think we would see and look at the deliverables of the growth above that number that we have today. And so those are the general measurements that we would look at to see this being productive.
A couple other questions. In looking at also the staff report, I noticed that you guys are working with our Fresno Chamber and obviously with other businesses. I'm wanting to know what other contacts have you guys or efforts to work with the Black Chamber, the 2 Hispanic chambers here in the community. I think that if we're talking about kind of the long-term goals in terms of manufacturing and the type of residents we want to impact, I believe that also including these chambers. I don't know if you guys have, maybe you can speak to that.
Well, and Mr. Betzel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation is a partner on this. I think the Black Chamber is also involved in it. I think they've all signed on to it in one way or another.
So they are?
Yes.
Okay. And then what
And
other...
there is a website, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there is a website that lists all of the partners, and we can get you that information.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just didn't see it because I know that you guys listed a number of folks in the report, and so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, we
in terms
just
of
didn't do a
question.
comprehensive list. Yeah.
The other question I had in terms of maybe a partner in the community, because I did notice that you guys had the California Community Colleges. Are you guys working with State Center Community College? Because I've been kind of in touch with folks over there, and I haven't heard if there's something that they are going to be formalizing in terms of becoming a partner. So if you guys can speak to that, and if that's not the case, I would encourage that we work with our State Center Community College. I know that they've been in conversations in terms of talking about career technical education and how this fits in. Seems like a natural place. So I would highly encourage you guys, if you guys don't already have established that partnership, that we work towards having that, given that we have Fresno City College and some of the other
yes, ma'am,
colleges.
and we have made that contact. I know that they have been involved. I know, at least in our office, we have an initiative that we're working with right now with Dr. Wood, who is the head of the the City Training Center for City College, and we're working specifically on warehouse distribution, logistics, but there is also involved in that is manufacturing and updating really their curriculum and trying to move that forward. So yes.
One last question. I'm assuming that you guys put together a plan in terms of a budget. So I know the city of Fresno is contributing $75,000. Wondering what kind of budget you guys are looking at to get this initiative off the floor, and what are your other partners that are also contributing, and at what levels?
I'll let Mr. Betts answer that.
Thank you.
On your last question, 3 years ago, we started this initiative at the Fresno Business Council, and we've reached out to every high school and every junior college and university in our area. So everybody's connected on the building a world-class career education system. And we've been working with them on the curriculum, specifically in 4 areas: business, manufacturing, agriculture, and health. And we're ready to publish a report that'll be published here probably in a couple of weeks that is very much in line with the State Center's initiatives. We all, the Business Council, several of us participated last week on their charrette process, looking forward of aligning business and the community on the education for career and technical ed. As far as our partners, in the community, we have the EDC, Fresno County EDC, the Workforce Investment Board. We have numerous businesses that are helping support this initiative.
I think my question was more in terms of what is the budget that you guys are, in terms like your overall budget. I know that we're contributing $75,000, but I kind of want to get a picture of what your entire budget is, and then what other partners, what they're contributing.
Okay, so our budget to start right now is around $75,000 a year. Okay, and that supports our business development person. We call it a business development director. And managing the summit, which is a big deal, putting the summit together, working on the agenda this year. We have 16 breakouts for the summit. The summit's going to be on March the 3rd, and it's an all-day event. And I have literature here for the city council members if you'd like to have that as well, so you can check it out. There's 2 sets.
One other question that I had, because you were mentioning kind of the fact that you guys have worked with all the different schools. Have you guys reached out to Central Unified? I know that a lot is center around Fresno Unified and Clovis Unified, but I think that many times Central Unified, which is a district that I represent west of the 99, gets overlooked a lot, and they're actually doing some amazing things around career technical education. Have you guys engaged with them, their board, the new superintendent, Mark Sutton?
So we spent more time with Mike Berg and his assistant 2 years ago. We've had 5 members of the Business Council that have literally toured every career and technical education program within our region, within a 30-mile radius. And we've made a study on the curriculum, of the quality of the curriculum, the compatibility from school to school, and we've kind of stated in certain quarters which programs we think are the exceptional ones and which ones need help, and trying to link those folks together so that they can go and visit the ones that are maybe performing at a higher level.
So now that they have a new superintendent, have you guys engaged him? Now that Mike Berg is...
Yeah, we haven't been back.
Okay,
but
so...
we've met and been in touch with the people at Central.
So, I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. I think it's great in terms of the different stakeholders in our community looking at this initiative to grow and really the benefits that are going to come out of it. But I would encourage you guys to continue, especially given the fact that we do have a new superintendent, and there are 4,000 students that are part of that district that they're continued to be included, as part of the process.
Absolutely.
Great. I think those are all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for the information. And again, I do see this as a positive issue and a positive project happening here in our community. One other just comment that I'd like to make. I know that we talked about $75,000 being kind of the budget. I'd encourage to also maybe consider asking our other partners to step up and contribute, and so that the city is not the only one with the contribution. Thank you.
Yes, and if I could clarify that, I think, and I'm not sure Mr. Betts understood the question that it was. Their budget is over $200,000. The part of this for the business development officers is $75,000 that we're talking about. But with the business summit and the other activities, it's well north of that. So I know your thinking is probably as well, the city of Fresno shouldn't be the only funder in this, and we're not.
Thank you very much. Member Brown.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Councilmember.
Councilmember Soria asked a lot of the questions that I was going to ask. Just a few things, and I think we've confirmed this is strictly for one position, right? Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and this is part of a larger budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, you said $200,000?
That's the mayor asked for a detailed budget from them, and the numbers that we were given was north of that, yes.
Okay, and who does this person report to?
The person would report to the chairman of the cluster, and that's Mr. Betts.
Okay, and do we get progress reports on, like an annual report on improving the database, making progress on, I mean, I like all the stuff that's in here. So was there any kind of report back to the council?
We will ask for that, yes, as part of it.
This is paid for by the enterprise fund, so it's not a general fund.
That is correct. We had we're finishing up the last remnants of the enterprise fund dollars, and this comes from that pot of money. Yes.
Okay. I know I've talked to Deb about this stuff, so I'm very familiar, and I really applaud you for moving in this direction to integrate, the educational component, career technical education. That's been discussed for a long time, but never really implemented or effective. And there's so many opportunities out there. People always think of CTE as only for construction jobs, but there's manufacturing and medical jobs and all over. There's just really a great need for that. So I will support this today and wish you good luck. Do you need a motion to approve? Has that been done?
Yes, we do.
A motion to approve. Thank you.
Member Quintero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Betts, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to have your business located in District 5. Appreciate that. A lot of happy employees. Okay, and Deb, thank you very much for meeting with me yesterday. We had a short visit, but a lot was stated, and the impact that this is going to have in the long term is just really going to improve our local workforce and economy overall. A lot of the jobs that are going to be needed for the future, and the thing too that I'm looking for is it's long-term planning that you're doing for our community, and the thing that I'm really excited about as well is I know you and I spoke, and I've already started things in motion on setting up some meetings for you and Mr. Betts to meet with some of the folks in the community that we've been working with on some of that, the same development that you're working on. So we're looking forward to continuing to work with you and see how we might be able to work collaboratively on that. And thank you once again. The one question I do have on the business development manager, where will their offices be?
The plan right now, Councilmember Quintero, is I believe that they will be located at the where the I'm drawing the blank, the Business Council, but I'm not sure that that has been decided yet.
Okay, I was just kind of looking for seeing if there might be somewhere where there's a centralized location or something like that that's pretty accessible to folks.
Go ahead, Mike.
So the majority of the person's time will be in the field, visiting with our partners and especially our manufacturers. One of our goals is to, survey our manufacturers, find out what's working, what isn't working, collect ideas for improvement, and start working towards those combined ideas. So it's a big job. There's a lot of people to see and a lot to do. And we're just really excited to get this rolling, have this individual that will help us. I think you'll be very, very impressed with the individual that we're going to hire for this position.
Okay, good. Well, once we get the BRT going, he can ride that too, or she. Okay. So that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Member Baines.
Hey, thank you, Mr. President. One of the questions I was going to ask, and the item that I pulled for consent was brought up here, so might as well get answered here. Larry, when we're talking about the Fresno Enterprise Zone Fund, how much is left in that? I know we're not collecting anymore, but how much is left in that?
I believe there's roughly $400,000 left.
Okay, and do we have a plan of how we're going to draw that down?
Yes, we do. So there was this opportunity that came along, and we've kind of moved things around. But part of what we're thinking about is using for the EDA grant in the South Van Ness industrial area. There's a matching requirement. So we set aside, thinking that would come up and play when we get the EDA grant, hopefully.
And how much? What's the match for that?
Well, the EDA grant, the maximum that they will do, and I'm sorry I haven't thought about that for a couple months. I think it's $3 million, up to $5 million when you show enough job creation. Mm-hmm. And depending on where our SEDS is, our Community Economic Development Strategic Plan, they can assess it at a 50-50 match or as high as a 70-30 match. Okay. They provide the 70, we provide the 30. So we've been kind of segregated that, thinking that we're going to use that to help do the infrastructure upgrades for the South Van Ness industrial area.
And what's the range of the eligible uses for the Enterprise Zone Fund?
Well, the Enterprise Fund, the remaining, at least what we've always been told, and what was the dollars were always set aside for, was economic development related activities. The Enterprise Fund is now gone, so we're not sure that who would enforce that or not enforce that, or how that would somebody come in and object to that.
So can we just put it in the general fund?
Pardon me?
Can we just put it in the general fund?
No, you cannot put it in the general fund. No, I mean, it's certainly whatever council wants to do under the...
Okay. City Attorney, do you have an opinion on that, what our eligible uses for the Enterprise Fund dollars are?
No, but we can look into it and get right back to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. The screen is clear. A motion by Member Brand, second by Member Quintero. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandow absent. We're going to go to the 215 item now. Rezone item on page 6 of our agenda. Mr. Tackett.
Council President Capriolio, council members, Will Tackett, Development and Resource Management Department. Staff proposes no changes to its report or recommendations. We're available to field any questions. Thank you.
We'll take this out to the public. Mr. Roberts, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Council President, members of the council, Jeff Roberts on behalf of the applicant and owner. We want to state for the record we concur with the staff recommendation, with the Planning Commission recommendation, and thank you very much. We'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Screen is clear. I'll make a motion. This is a District 4 item to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Member Brand. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandow absent. Thank you. Next will be the contested consent item 1E.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. Again, Larry Westerlund, Director of Economic Development for the City of Fresno. We have before you today approval of agreement between the City of Fresno and the Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $50,000. This is a continuation of a $49,000 contract that we did last year. This is the second contract in that. This is an agreement between the city participating with the EDC. Through that, we hired in participation with the EDC, part of it was that it would hire somebody who would liaison with the city of Fresno and the city of Clovis in particular. Jose Mora is here. He has done that. We've done, I think, very well in terms of our relationship. In a sense, this is kind of a regular dues, or our ability to participate in the EDC. Several years ago, the city funded the EDC at a much higher level. As the Great Recession hit, that went down and down and down and then zeroed out. And now we're back to $50,000 a year. We're working well together. They've worked with us on the Nordstrom project. So I'm happy to report that we're making progress on a number of fronts. And I will turn it over to Leanne Eagers to address.
Well, I pulled it, and I have actually a specific question, and I'll be happy to hear from Leanne. But I just kind of wanted to. I was thinking, about the fact that we're hiring this person for business attraction, which is great, as I understand, is written in the staff report. But what about our current businesses in the city? Are we interested in helping those businesses expand? And is this person going to help our existing businesses expand?
Yes, we are interested. As a matter of fact, most of our efforts thus far has been on the business expansion and retention. We have run that out of our office in letters to our employers by the mayor to them. This wouldn't cover that part of what they do on that, but most anything that they do on the business expansion and retention side, it's going to come to the city one way or another in terms of their permitting, any incentives, things of that nature. So this wouldn't cover that part, and we're okay with that at this point.
Okay, I'll hear from Leanne since you called Leanne.
Thank you.
Come on down, Madam Executive Director, and be happy to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Good afternoon. I put it way down there, don't I? Yes, and we certainly appreciate getting back into the business with the City of Fresno last year with the $49,000, and we did hire Jose Mora, and he has now been promoted to manager. And so I have my team here that actually all of those folks that you see here from the EDC have been working with the City of Fresno. We have our attraction group. We also have our business expansion retention. This last year, we saw about 135 businesses through expansion and retention. From that 135, I think we had about 400 referrals, so things that we had to do in order to keep those businesses up and running in Fresno.
And those are in the city?
Those are the City of Fresno, yes. Throughout the 6,000 square miles in the county, there's hundreds and hundreds, but that was just for the City of Fresno. Okay. We also have, and you pay for a portion of what we do for the high-speed rail in ensuring that all those folks on that alignment. But what happens when the high-speed rail team finishes and they move them someplace? they transfer them over to our business expansion retention team to make sure that in their new facility that they have everything that they need, whether they are hiring new folks or they're looking at what they can do to expand in their new facility. And we've had those, which is great. I think Will Oliver can probably tell you about some great experiences that we've had in the city of Fresno here where because of the move that we've made, they have been able to expand. So, and I think I've probably talked to all of you about all the wonderful teamwork we've been doing.
Right. Well, thank you, Leanne, and really, I don't have any further questions, but I just wanted to. It's funny, I've been taking more of an interest in business expansion. It's primarily because of things that are happening around High Speed Rail and what have you. And when I saw this contract, I was wondering, why we wouldn't tag expansion onto that. And now I hear that there's quite a bit of business expansion going on inside of the city, or at least inquiries about it. So, listen, I'm happy to make a motion to approve this item today in its current form. But I hope that next time, Larry and Bruce and what have you, that we may think about a larger investment on the expansion side too, whether we are extending our partnership with the EDC, whether we are beefing up internal expansion or what have you. It's worth a discussion, but obviously there's a lot of effort going around the expansion, business expansion piece. So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion on item 1E, contested consent calendar. Motion by member member Baines, and seconded by member Brand. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with member Brandow absent. We'll go to page 7, City Council 3A, award a consulting services agreement, and the sponsors are members Soria and Baines.
I'll just say a few words because you guys all got the report as part of your packet, but very excited about today being able to award a contract. Just to remind all of you, on June 4th, we voted to create the Fresno Youth Commission, and we did work with the administration to allocate enough funding for the next 2 years. We had RFP process that we went through. We worked in collaboration with the city staff and Councilmember Oliver Baines' office in creating a committee to do through the selection process. So we are awarding the contract to the Youth Leadership Institute. They're a well-known organization, not only here locally but statewide, and really a leader in youth issues, youth advocacy. And so we're very excited to be able to partner up with them and really ensure that we are engaging our young people here in our community. So I wanted to pass it over to my council colleague and see if he wants to say a few words.
Yeah, and I'll be really quick. Obviously, this has been a long time coming. We're thrilled to be recommending awarding this contract today. As a lot of you know, we for many years in the city, especially on this side, on the council side, we've struggled with how to actually integrate our vibrant, very active youth committees within the work that we do here, and really offer them a legitimate voice. So after we bantered about that for a while, we decided that we ought to form a youth commission. And out of that, we realized that, well, we certainly don't have the capabilities internally to manage and run that piece. So we worked to try to make sure we could bring in the expertise necessary to fully integrate our youth into the idea and the spirit of the Youth Commission. So again, we're thrilled about YLI today, and we certainly hope that our colleagues will support.
Thank you very much. We'll take this out to the public. Anyone in our audience wish to speak on this item, please come forward and give us your name and your address for the record. I see some approaching citizens. Welcome. Yes, smiling faces, absolutely, Member Quintero. It's a great day.
Good afternoon, council members, Council President Caprioglio. My name is Shermua. I live at 2219 South Winery Avenue, Fresno, California, 93725. Thank you for this opportunity to address you. I just really want to thank you guys for moving the Youth Commission forward. Thank you guys for listening to the young people who advocated for this commission. And who worked with members of the council to make this happen. And also just to say that, this is really a victory for the young people across Fresno and a victory for the city of Fresno. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Francisco Espinosa. I live at 1625 Broadway Street. 8 months ago, you all voted to support this council, and I'm so happy that we're here today, that moving forward, and that, like my colleague Sher just shared, you listen to our youth that we work with. I firmly believe that the youth are an integral part to the development of Fresno and its future. I know one concrete example of this development is the Fresno BHC skate park and Romaine Park. That was just the groundbreaking last Friday, and I'm sure the Youth Commission will have a similar impact on the city so it can continue to be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Council President Capriolio, council members. I want to just give so much gratitude to the council members for putting this forward. Thank you for listening to the young people. We have been in your offices time and time again. You have heard them. You have heard their voice. They have incredible perspective on what needs to happen for Fresno to be a better place than it already is. And we at YLI Youth Leadership Institute is just incredibly excited to move forward, to start recruiting young people from each one of your districts and to have representation. So we are excited that we've also just launched one in San Mateo. So there's another San Mateo Youth Commission, Marin Youth Commission, and now a Fresno Youth Commission. This is exciting news across the state. And Fresno is going to make some headlines, I'll tell you that. So again, gratitude to you for pushing this forward. And the young people are just really excited about moving on this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Anyone else in the audience like to come forward? Okay, we'll bring it up here, and it is Councilmember Brand's opportunity.
Thank you. First of all, this was a great idea last year to engage our youth, and I think so many people are disengaged, from what goes on at City Hall, and not to mention the state and federal government. Again, a good idea. It's getting going. Just a few questions. There was only 2 applicants that applied. Was expected?
Yeah, I don't think we were that shocked. The work is relatively unique in this field, and there's not a whole lot of organizations that have the capacity to really do that. A lot of well-meaning and well-intentioned organizations, but only a few that really possess the capacity to really do what we needed them to do. So we weren't that shocked that it would be such a low turnout.
So the Fresno County Office of Education was one of the applicants? Okay, all right. And so the job of the consultant then is to organize, I don't know, how big is this going to be?
So each one of us will get an appointment, and the mayor will get 2.
No, I know there's a commission, but how far, what's their outreach in the community?
The city of Fresno.
Okay, so
the entire city.
Okay, so the consultant, their task then is to help them organize and get people engaged in what's going on in the city of Fresno.
And also help do, yes, and then also help do the outreach so that we get a good pool of potential appointee youth commissioners.
Okay, and then is this an ongoing expense? Is this like once we get it set up, we got it set up?
Well, the commitment is a 2-year commitment, which was budgeted when we initially voted. We first voted to create it, and then during the budget, we allocated for 2 years.
Okay.
So we would have to agree upon the 2 years in a future budget to continue funding it if that's the way that we want to.
So this is the first installment, and then we approved 100,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Quintero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to thank Council Members Soria and Baines for bringing this forward. It's been overdue, and really looking forward to see the results of the good work that they're going to do. So, thank you very much, and I'll be happy to support it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Member Soria, seconded by Member Baines. I'd just like to add my gratitude as well to all of you. I was going to say you're all going to be future leaders. I'm mistaken. You are current leaders, and we want you to continue your leadership role in our community in each and every one of our districts, and you have a great mentor, and please continue to do so. It's very, very exciting, extremely exciting, so thank you again. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Member Brandau absent. Congratulations. Okay, that was fun. That was exciting. Okay, next we'll go to the unscheduled communication. Would any member of the public like to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council? You have 3 minutes to do so, and if you'll please come forward and give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our closed session. City Attorney?
Yes, we have 2 items on closed session. One, deciding whether to initiate litigation concerning the city and potentially a workers' compensation matter with State Center Community College, Fresno City College, Fresno City College Police Academy, and also a labor negotiation concerning FCEA. And we do need to allow for public comment before going into closed session.
Thank you very much. And after that, we'll be on recess until 5 p.m., and that's a zoning map update hearing. So we'll see you back at 5. Thank you very much. We have a quorum, and I think we're ready to proceed with the 5 o'clock matter. It's entitled a zoning map update hearing, and staff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Council President, members of the City Council. I'm Dan Zach, an Assistant Director in the DARM Department, and I am here this evening to discuss the zoning map update. So, this is our main action that, subsequent to the general plan, to implement the general plan land use map. So I'm going to give a little bit of background before I dive into the particulars, just to help everybody understand how we got to this point. On December 18th, 2014, a little over a year ago, the general plan was adopted. And one of the centerpieces of that general plan was a land use map that laid out land uses and densities across the city. On July 16th, 2015, we came back with a general plan land use map cleanup. There were some areas that were identified that needed to be revisited, and so we did that and made some improvements at that time. In September, we came to the Planning Commission with the text for the new development code in draft form, and they recommended approval of it. And then on December 3rd, 2015, the City Council adopted the development code text. We were directed by the Council to return 30 days after the effective date of that zoning text with an updated zoning map, so that we would not be in a transitional period too long, so that the new map would be ready to go as soon as possible. It was effective on January 5th, and so we are here 1 day prior to that 30 days. So I'm happy to report that. We noticed this activity in the Fresno Bee on January 10th, 2016, with a big color insert in the Sunday paper, folded out into a big color map of the rezoning activity. And then we went to the Planning Commission to discuss this matter on January 20th, and that leads us to this moment. So this is the general plan land use map that was adopted by this body in 2014. And when you compare it to the current zoning map, you can see that there is quite a disconnect in that color pattern, and the colors represent the different densities and uses that are envisioned, and so that disconnect can cause some challenges. What we are doing for now is that the old zoning designations that are on this map, R1, CM, C5, C6, various uses, various zones that are no longer in the zoning ordinance because the new development code replaced them, are being converted and translated to the new district and the new code that most closely matches the old designation. And that's getting us through until we get a new map adopted. There are some challenges with that, though. For example, Blackstone is envisioned in the general plan as a mixed-use, transit-oriented kind of corridor, and the old zone designations don't reflect that. And so somebody coming in and wanting to build according with your vision in the general plan wouldn't actually have the zone available to them to be able to do that and would face some hurdles. A project was recently brought forward on Blackstone, at Blackstone and McKinley, that was right in line with that general plan mixed-use vision, and they had trouble because the zoning on the map didn't reflect that vision in the general plan. And so that makes it tough to carry forward some of the general plan policies, such as the roughly half of our growth that would take place in the existing city, and changing the pattern from almost all of our growth going outward to a balanced approach of inward and outward growth. So if we go back to the general plan land use map, making the new zoning map was actually pretty easy because the general plan map laid it out very well. So what we did is trim out all of the sphere of influence areas and county islands that aren't under the zoning of the city of Fresno's jurisdiction. And then we, in the new zoning code, the new development code, there's one zone district for every one of these colors that implements that general plan vision. And so we translated them right over on a one-to-one basis, and therein you have your new zoning map. Accompanying that is an overlay map, and so there are a few overlay zones in the new development code, and what these zones do is they add extra standards in certain parts of the city that help carry forward general plan policies that are specific to certain areas or some specific plan policies. For example, there's an overlay in the Tower District that implements some of the Tower District specific plan policies. There's, the expressway overlay along Herndon that implements some of those policies, and so on and so forth. One thing that we also wanted to briefly address is conditions of zoning. And so sometimes when a property is rezoned, there are conditions of zoning added on, restricting certain uses on that property or requiring certain infrastructure improvements. And there are about 13,000 parcels in the city that have some of these attached, and they are not being altered with this action. So all conditions of zoning would move forward with this action tonight, remain in place and in full effect. In conjunction with the new zoning map, there's also a handful of parcels that are proposed to get a general plan land use update. This is a second cleanup following up on the one we did last summer to reflect a few things. Some of the general plan MEIR mitigation measures needed a land use change to take full effect. There were some clear zones in the airport areas that needed to have a land use change, and so we brought those forward so that everything lined up with those policies. Lastly, I wanted to point out that the downtown planning area is the only part of the city that would not be part of this action. And so the hatched area in red will be subject to the downtown development code, which is almost complete and will be brought to this group mid-year or so. And then there will be a map for that area as part of that code, and then the whole city will be complete and up to date and consistent with the general plan. So this would be everywhere but downtown. So I showed you our brochure in the paper, and the fold out had the color map of the new zoning map and a color coded legend that showed people what zone would apply where. We also created a website, fresno.gov/map update, that people could go to. It would explain how this whole thing worked, and the centerpiece of it, I think, was this sliding zoning comparison map that we created. And so what this allowed you to do is go on, look at the current zoning, and then you could grab this little slider bar here, slide it to the side, and then it shows the new zoning designations for that same area that are being proposed. And then you can click on a parcel, and a little information window would pop up, and it would tell you what the old zone district was, what the new one would be, and how some of the main development standards compare. And then if you wanted to read the full set of standards, you click on a hyperlink, and it takes you right to the document. So we set that up so that people could really see how it all compared. We took this action to the various implementation committees throughout the city and got their feedback. They all recommended approval. District 1 had a few concerns about some of the densities as it related to traffic, but they still recommended approval. District 3 recommended the zoning map be approved, and there were no general plan amendments for them to look at. We also took it to our 2 design review committees. They both approved it. The tower requested that we come back with a few more general plan land use cleanups in their area. We concur with that. We've noticed some of the same things that need to be adjusted that they noticed, and so we're going to, after this action, get to work on that, and we'll be back in the near future with that. The Planning Commission recommended approval on January 20th.
Can I ask you about the Tower District Design Review? So what's the plan with the concerns that do we have a plan to address those?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there were a few parcels on the Washon, Van Ness, and Olive corridors that in the general plan didn't quite line up with what the tower-specific plan suggested, and so they need to be adjusted to reflect that better, and we're aware of it, and we've already mapped out what needs to go where, and so it's going to be very easy for us to adjust it. We were actually hoping to bring it as part of this action so that it could just be done with, because we already identified what needed to go where. The specific plan guides us on that very well. However, it needed a little bit more review from our Public Works Department before we were comfortable moving it forward, and so we'll be able to do that in pretty short order and come back to you with that.
When do we expect? What's your guys' time frame?
I would imagine we would be able to be back within the next 60 days on that.
Okay. Yeah. And then as it relates to the tower-specific plan, if we are looking at doing an update, because as you know, it's very outdated, how does that impact the current changes that we're doing right now with the zones?
It all depends on how that update shook out. If it simply proposed infrastructure improvements and things like that, then there would be no impact at all on the zoning map update. If it proposed any changes in the land use patterns in the neighborhood, then we would need to carry that all the way forward by an adjustment to this zoning map. So it depends on what the neighborhood wants and how that shakes out.
But right now, for the most part, it mirrors what the current specific plan entails.
Yep, exactly.
Except for some of
except for the few sites that I mentioned.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. The Planning Commission had a caveat with their approval that on the parcels in the flight paths near the airports, they wanted to defer to the Airport Land Use Commission. We did take this item to the Airport Land Use Commission, and they recommended approval of all changes that were being proposed within their areas. So they were.
Before you move, sorry, on to the
Yeah,
next,
no problem.
could you speak to the District 1 concerns that are noted there?
Yeah, we absolutely can. I'm going to defer to my colleague who was actually at that meeting, and she can field that question a little better than I can.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I punched up early on, and I don't know if he needs to finish their presentation before because I had specific questions for my district. I mean, I don't.
Maybe we should take the overall picture, and then we can get specific thereafter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Quintero.
I only have a few more slides, and then we can go to questions. In terms of public feedback, you have a list in your agenda packet. There were 14 formal comments submitted in total. Here's just a snapshot of the first page of them. Some of them were just general comments. A few of them were opposed to some of the general plan land use changes, and that's all reflected in your handout. There were a few clarifications on those general plan amendments that we wanted to offer up. There were two in particular. On one had to do with item 3, which was the parcel highlighted, APN 507-030-15. And part of that parcel is in the open space clear zone, but not all of it. And that .92 acres should say approximately because it's not the entire parcel, so we're not sure of the exact acreage. That's just an estimate. And if somebody wants to develop that, the exact line of that clear zone will be determined by a survey at that time. So we just wanted to clear up that that was an estimation. The property owner had a concern about that, and we wanted to make that clear. And then the other one that we wanted to note is that item 9 ended up not being necessary because the same, an adjustment to that site was being proposed as part of a separate project, and that's already taken care of, and so we didn't need to do it as part of this project. So I'll just wrap up with the staff recommendation. There's 3 parts to it. 1, we recommend that you adopt the environmental findings for environmental assessment A15007, R15016, which is an addendum to the final MEIR, State Clearinghouse number 2012-111015, which was certified by the City Council on December 18th, 2014 for the Fresno General Plan and Development Code pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15162 and 15164. We also recommend that you adopt a resolution approving plan amendment application number A15007 to amend the Fresno General Plan, figure LU1 land use and circulation map, and figure LU2 dual designation diagram, the Bullard, Fresno, Jaime, McLean, Roosevelt West area, and Woodward Park community plans, the Tower District specific plan, the Fresno Yosemite Airport land use compatibility plan, and the Sierra Sky Park land use policy plan as described in Exhibit A. And a bill for introduction and adoption approving rezone application number R15016 to update the zoning map of the City of Fresno by adopting the proposed zoning map and overlay district map consistent with the City of Fresno General Plan Land Use and Circulation Map adopted on December 18th, 2014, and as subsequently amended as described in Exhibit B, and all conditions of zoning will remain in effect. And that concludes our formal presentation. And
thank you very much. Very informative. Councilmember Quintero. You want to go there? Okay, sorry. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? I've got some cards, but I just want to alert everybody that you'll have an opportunity to speak. And when you come up here, please give us your name and address for the record. But we'll do the cards first, as is our tradition. And Mr. Jeffrey Reed, you're up first. Good afternoon.
Jeff Reed, 7647 North Fresno Street, Cormac Barstow. I represent Robertson Properties Group, and I'm here about one of the general plan land use cleanup items. And this is item number 19 on your schedule. And it's a property my client owns about 20 acres at the southwest corner of Clovis Avenue and Olive Avenue. There are several properties there. I'm only here regarding one APN, which is the first one that I think is listed in that grouping, 456-030-15. The staff has proposed to take it from a CMX as being an unsuitable use to a light industrial. And while we agree that the CMX is not as suitable, we do have development plans for that site that we're going to be bringing forward in the near term. And we think that any subsequent general plan land use amendment ought to be taken into account in the context of that future proposal. And so we'd ask that we leave it CMX until such time as we are able to come forward with our specific development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I'll be making a motion to do that at a later time in this hearing.
Great. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next is Mr. Doug Jensen. Good afternoon, sir. Good to see you.
President, council members, my name is Doug Jensen. I'm with Baker Manikin Jensen at 5260 North Palm, Suite 421, and I'm appearing this evening on behalf of a client, Genco Farms, and I delivered a letter yesterday to you with regard to property on the southwest and southeast corners of Herndon and Hayes. And our concern is that this process purports to backzone that property. It's presently zoned for office use on the southwest corner, and on the southeast there's some small commercial and then some multifamily off the corner. Problem is, frankly, we didn't find out that this general plan proposal was going to rezone or backzone our property until it was confirmed on Monday. And we've since addressed a letter to you to make our point that we would like to keep that existing zoning. We're not sure at this point what the procedure is. We've met with Development Director Clark, and she's assured us that she'll work with us, but appearing this evening to make that point. We, for example, have been in contact with a prospective buyer on the property that's now office. They're talking about building possibly a medical services building, and this proposal makes all the land multifamily, even on Herndon Expressway. So this was very troubling, to say the least. The staff mentioned that the notice was published in the Fresno Bee, but I don't think it was published in the legal notices. I think it was published like Big Five ad insert in the Fresno Bee. Now, whether that's published in the Bee, I just raised the point. In any event, our client plans to work with the planning department, but we wanted to make our objection known for the record. Thank you.
So is your objection is noted, but did you want to have that removed? Is that your ultimate goal from the proposed general plan amendment?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you happen to have the APN numbers on that?
Yes, I do. They are 504-090, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next we have Melanie Warner. Ashley Warner, sorry. I actually lost the cards. I don't know what happened.
Okay, good evening. I'm Ashley Warner with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, 764 P Street in Fresno. I'm here on behalf of our clients, Familias Adams por un Mejor Futuro, Rosalina Carson y Rosalba Cardenas. I did submit a letter to you this morning, but I want to highlight a couple of points on the record orally. And so it's our position to clarify for you that this rezone map does not satisfy the city's obligations under its 2008 housing element, as well as state and federal housing element laws, to make sites available for affordable housing, including Housing Element Program 2.1.6A. And we are available and willing to meet with you to discuss how there could be modifications made so that this map does bring the city into compliance with these obligations. So first, the city has a duty to comply with fair housing laws, and that includes making sites available for affordable housing for all income groups across the city and not concentrating those sites in any area of the city as they currently are concentrated. The zoning map does not do enough to address the disparate treatment of sites for affordable housing development in Fresno, and we believe, in fact, replicates existing land use patterns wherein higher income households in North Fresno, higher income North Fresno neighborhoods, disproportionately comprised of white residents compared to the city as a whole, are predominantly zoned for single family housing and disproportionately lack zoning for multifamily housing compared to South Fresno neighborhoods. So we believe this needs to be rectified before the map is adopted. We would like to work with you to address that. Second, the proposed zoning map update does not satisfy the city's obligations to make sites available for affordable housing. So the city's 2008 housing element includes Program 2.1.6A, which required that by June 30th, 2010, the city rezone 500 acres of vacant land for multifamily housing at 20 units per acre by right, and an additional 200 acres of land for multifamily housing at 38 units per acre by right. It's been more than 5 years since this deadline, and the city has not done it. We don't believe that this rezone map satisfies that need. There is no analysis provided to demonstrate that the sites, that there in fact is 700 acres of sites that are being upzoned at the required densities, that those sites are vacant, that it would allow exclusively residential use as required by the program, that they're suitable for multifamily development, and that there would be no discretionary action required for that development. And then in addition, because this action was not completed to rezone those sites in the planning period that ended at the end of 2015 for the 2008 housing element, the city does have to comply with this obligation in the next housing element cycle. So the city cannot simply write off that obligation. And finally, it's procedurally improper at this time to be adopting this development code map, as the Municipal Code Section 154906D1 is explicit that the Planning Commission, prior to its review, must receive recommendations from District 3 Implementation Committee, which it did not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner. Lauren Harding. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Lauren Harding, 3411 West Browning Avenue in Fresno. My home would be impacted by this. I'm at the corner of Browning and Valentine. There's a triangle there of houses bounded by Valentine on the east, West Browning on the north, and the BNSF Railroad cutting through there on the south. There's 80 homes involved. I'm one of them. I don't like this. I don't like anything about it. I'm surprised by it. Doug Vagum informed me of it last night. I fail to see why you would take 80 existing single-family homes and downgrade them by changing the setbacks from 20 to 13 feet, changing the coverage from 45% to 60%, downgrading the lot size from 5,000 square feet to 4,000. There's nothing in there for us. That's a lose-lose for us. There's no way we're going to win on that. So what I'll do is contact all 80 homeowners, and we'll get a lawsuit going and sue you all, and sue some of you personally, the leaders of this, sue you personally for it, for trying to damage our homes. R1 is, they're all R1 now. Under the new system, the ones across the street north of me on Browning and farther north and east of me will all be RS4. RS5 will be mine. I haven't been able to see how many parts of the city you're doing this to, but I'll get the APN numbers for all 80 homes, be back in touch with you. And if we can sue you successfully, that'll be a great thing. You deserve it. You deserve no less. So I oppose it. I request that you get out of that, rezone that area, those 80 homes, bounded by Valentine on the east, Browning on the north, the BNSF Railroad coming through there on a diagonal on the south. Take us out of this. Leave us as the new RS4, because it'll damage our home values, for one thing. Nobody's going to buy a home in there, even if they see the possibility of this. It occurred to me, how would it be if every single lot in there has a home on it now? How would it be that you'd get empty lots to apply these new rules to? Well, I thought of a few ways. A train explodes, a hurricane comes through, houses burn down, a truck rams into a house, a plane crashes into a house, you get an empty lot, and then you can build a new one. People could buy homes and tear them down and apply these new rules to what they put in there instead. So it could happen, but as of right now, all 80 lots in there have an existing home on them. They were all built around 1989, so they're 27 years old. They're not 100 years old.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm plenty fired up about this. And I'm funny about my home. I'm real funny about it. See? If there's one thing about me, it's people coming after my home. And that's what you're doing, and I strongly recommend you reconsider it. That could lead to unexpected consequences.
Thank you very much.
If you come after my home. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next is Mr. Mark Kalchik. Sorry we didn't get you sooner. I know you've been sitting here since 5. I didn't have a card, so that's kind of a tradition. So sorry about that.
Good evening. Mark Kalchik, 5648 North Millbrook, around Millbrook and Browning. And University Portals, we're currently R1C, which is a low-density single-family housing. And based on the translation, we thought it would go to an RS3, the same lot size and such, 9,000 square feet. But according to the general plan, they have it marked as medium density, which means that it would go to RS4, which lowers the minimum lot size to 5,000. And so we disagree with the general plan that it mistranslated the original zoning, lowering the lot size for the housing in that area. We were just lucky to see it in the Fresno B initially. That didn't seem to be a really good notice of it, and we've been scrambling since the Planning Commission meeting to get the information to see what was happening. And so we would request that the university portals go back to its original equivalent to R1C, which would be the RS3 for as it currently would be.
Could you say that again, from what to what?
From the R1C to RS-3. That's the current residential single-family low density.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next card is Doug Vagum. Good evening, Mr. Vagum.
Thanks, Council President. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Let me just follow in on the RS designations. I understand that the general plan had to have a intensity component added to it because of the fact of we're trying to not sprawl. And I understand that, but my biggest concern is what your new proposed RS5, which have some of our neighborhoods, particularly our older neighborhoods, so a significant amount of them got painted RS5. And a lot of these lots, lot I live in, my whole neighborhood, have lots a lot larger than the average RS4. So it was arbitrary. You just swept and said, okay, let's just put these densities here, and it works. So the issue now is a development code. How are you going to shoehorn a new development if someone decides to come and buy and tear down some homes? What are you going to do? Now, I understand, talking to Mr. Daniel Zach, that there is some kind of a mitigation crossover. But the fact of it is, when you think about some of that, the averaging thing of 10%, not more than 10%, can be creeped. In other words, one guy does a 10%, then the whole thing becomes a little bit, the denominator becomes a greater amount. I would like to have a baseline. In other words, what the neighborhood was right now. No more. Don't start averaging in the new creeping as it goes up and up closer to the curve. For example, RS5 says 13 feet. Most of the folks in my neighborhood are 40, 45 feet back. I mean, that's an incredible jump if you start doing that encroachment, even by 10%. The other concern I have is the fact that this city has a good way of condemning or setting outside the width of the road that used to be, and we're sitting on a 70-foot road, and a developer comes along and says, you know, we don't need that. We need 10. We can use 10 feet of that, and we can get a little closer to what the old curb used to be. Plenty of places where there are examples right now. Please put in there that we cannot do that to these older neighborhoods. The streetscape should stay the same. And so encroaching on the road, narrowing it, and that kind of stuff, and bringing development out should be in the transitional thing as a no-no, or a very hardened, clear, and precise rule that we, the citizens, can understand. And let me jump to something else. 30 years ago, there was a fight that's created the whole resurgence of the Tower District. And that was a lot at Alhambra and Van Ness. Remember that, Sal? And the fact of it is, I was one of the leaders that stopped that project. Well, now it's back again as an RM3. How do you kill this monster? It can go to 6 stories. Now, I understand that's an anomaly or an error or something like that, but please, folks, once someone gets an entitlement, even for a short bit of time, they start moving ahead, you're going to have a harder time than you do if you just say no right now or put some provisos in your language that these anomalies cannot move forward. So that project needs to be really seriously stopped. It cannot be a 6-story floor. No other building in any permitted use in the whole area can go even close to 6 floors, 35 and 40 feet. So that is such an anomaly and such an error. I beg you to look at that and put some language in to make those changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the community that would like to come forward and comment on this issue, please give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Council President. I'm Dirk Puschel. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Hudson Family Trust, who, if I could have the camera put on, please. Thank you very much. The map, the real simple map that I've prepared, shows the Hudson Family Trust property, the Robertson Family Trust property immediately to the east, and then a 1-acre parcel owned by Gilda Hudson individually. This property, totaling about 62 acres, has been owned by the Papazian family for approximately 100 years. The original plan designation of the entire 62 acres was CMX. The CMX designation generally requires a mix of uses of residential, non-residential uses that, for a variety of reasons, was not compatible with market forces or the adjacent built development. Prior to the plan adoption, Hudson Trust members met with senior planning staff and expressed our concerns about the CMX designation. City staff suggested the industrial light designation as a replacement for the CMX designation because staff recognized the significant limitations of that designation. We have had meetings with Director Clark, who have been, and those meetings have been very productive, and we certainly appreciate all the time and effort that she has spent with on this matter. And we've also had a brief conversation with Council President Capriolio, as this property is in his district. Gilda Hudson respectfully asks that her 1-acre parcel on the corner of Clovis and Olive be designated for general commercial uses. The reason for this request are described in a letter to Planning Director Clark that I believe you have in your packet. Those reasons are that the parcel has obvious commercial value and has been zoned C5 for decades, and she again asks that this 1-acre parcel be designated for general commercial uses. I note that over the past 25 years, there has been no interest expressed for industrial uses on the entire 62-acre properties. The Hudson Family Trust members desire to continue to work with your staff. We are confident that a solution can be found to develop the site consistent with its exceptional location and strong market interest. And we thank you for your consideration this evening. And again, we want to thank staff for all the time they've spent on this matter.
On that issue, is that CMX right now, or what is the designation?
The Hudson property is designated for light industrial light.
You're asking to preserve that, or?
We're fine with it as it is today.
And do you have the APN number for that parcel?
It's on this map, and the staff has that also. And I say that, Council President, because we look forward to continued discussions with your planning director and working with our neighbors, the Hudson properties, Robertson's properties, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public like to come forward and speak on this issue?
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the council, I'm Jeff Roberts on behalf of Granville Homes. Our business address is 1396 West Herndon in the city of Fresno. And I want to speak specifically about the Copper River Ranch project, which is the project north of Copper between Willow and Friant. And we are the general partner that manages that property. So we don't have an issue with any of the zone districts that are being proposed by the map revision here this evening, but I want to acknowledge some comments we made at the Planning Commission, and that has to do with what's called our Master Conditional Use Permit. That's C-04153 was the application number. Copper River Ranch is a master plan project that is taking many years to complete. We don't know exactly how many years, but we've been working on it about 10 years. And the provisions in the Master CUP specify setbacks, lot coverage, and special attributes of the project that we want to continue using. Since we're about halfway through the project, we would like to continue using the tool of the Master CUP all the way through the project. And I don't think that's an issue. We talked about that at the Planning Commission. We want to make sure that's on the record here this evening. And that's one of the two comments I will make. And I'd be happy to answer questions about that if you have any. The second one has to do with the bundle of applications. Mr. Zach referred to them as number 9 in the list of plan amendments. And those issues actually were all addressed about 3.5 hours ago at the council meeting. And so I appreciate the work that they've done to clean this up. It's no longer necessary, and we appreciate your support earlier today. And that's number 9 is kind of off the table. So be happy to answer any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else in the public like to come forward and comment on this? Okay, seeing none. Councilmember Quintero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll defer to Councilmember Soria. She was already on a roll asking questions. Yeah, no, absolutely, because you were headed towards some of the questions I had as well. So go ahead and I'll follow.
Thank you for your kindness.
I know you did catch me off guard. So I think some of the questions were to Dan in regards to some of the concerns, or Sophia, because you were present at the District 1 committee.
Yes, Sophia Pagalatis with the Development and Resource Management Department. And your question, Councilmember Soria, was what exactly were the concerns of the District 1 committee when they reviewed these applications? Is that right?
Yes.
They were concerned in general about increasing density in the district with the current traffic challenges that they have, especially with respect to crossing 99. So talking about congestion on Ashland, that was the main, focus that I heard. So there was a willingness to approve, but with this caveat that there's a concern about traffic congestion.
Because of the density?
Yes.
And so are those some of the things that I'm assuming were thought out as you guys were developing kind of the densities in the neighborhoods?
Certainly they were. We did do traffic, analysis on each proposed general plan amendment before we included them in the general plan cleanup. And we didn't find any issues with any of them, on a project-specific level, on a more general level. But the committee still wanted to make sure that individual projects, as they came in, would get, the project-specific traffic analysis, and they certainly would. That's part of our development process.
Perfect. Thank you. Mm-hmm. The other questions that I had, either maybe Dan or I guess Dan could, if you could answer some of this regarding to notice. And so I know that the notice was published in the Fresno Bee. Did you guys publish the notice anywhere else?
So in addition to the color one on the 10th that we did, we also did the regular legal notice 10 days in advance in the legal noticing section in addition. So we covered both of those bases, and those were the two ways we noticed it, in addition to the website updates that we put up for folks, and that was the way that we got the information out.
Did you guys post it in other languages? Spanish, maybe Hmong? For folks
the legal notice informed people, and the brochure notified people of that there was Spanish available. In the
terms
typical
of
way
where?
that we do it.
Like in the Fresno Bee, you're saying that you...
Yeah. Sophia, can you address...
Sophia
prepared the notice. I'll have her explain that.
I just would question that you would even put that on the Fresno Bee that it's available in Spanish, because someone that speaks Spanish probably wouldn't grab the Fresno Bee.
We have a phrase at the end of our standard public notice that says in Spanish, si necesita español, comunícase conmigo, con Sofía Pagalatos.
Yeah, but in what notice? In the Fresno Bee?
Yes.
But again, my question is, would people, well, I guess my comment would be, people that speak Spanish wouldn't be reading the Fresno Bee. So it is counterproductive, in my opinion, to do a notice like that, because they wouldn't read the Fresno Bee in the first place. So how did we notice people that did not speak English?
that do not speak English.
Talia, did you want to add anything to that? I know we're required to publish our notice in a newspaper of general circulation, and the Fresno Bee has the largest and broadest circulation, so that's what we do. Did you have anything to add?
That is correct. The requirements of the FMC, both under the new code and the previous versions of the municipal code, required publication in a newspaper, as Ms. Pagalatos has indicated, of general circulation. The Bee is the one with the largest circulation, and that is for projects where the properties affected would exceed a threshold number. My recollection is that's 1,000 properties. So this was consistent with the requirements of our code.
So while, for me personally, while we're meeting the legal requirements, it's troublesome that we aren't notifying our communities that live in this city that may own property that don't speak English. And so I will say that it's troublesome that I wouldn't even feel comfortable voting today in accepting these, the proposed zone changes, because I think that our community needs to be informed. And when while we're meeting the minimal level of legal requirements in terms of noticing, it is troublesome, again, that other communities that do not speak English were unable to get the notice. So just kind of, that was my point in terms of the noticing piece. I think I'll leave if I have any comments, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilmember Quintero?
Dan? I have some questions. What are some of the, did we receive any copies of your presentation on paper?
Yeah, it was included in advance with the packet.
The one that's on our agenda binder?
Yeah, I provided it. It should have been made available.
I'm talking about the maps, the colored maps.
That was so the maps.
Because I just saw black and whites in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were converted to black or white. The ones we provided were color.
Yeah, I didn't get colors.
Yvonne, I don't know if you're able to speak to that, but we provided it in color, and I haven't seen the physical copies that you all received, so I can't speak to that. But we did provide it in color.
Because the concern I had was I wanted to see what the changes were that are existing to what we're going to be voting on, and I just don't recall getting those and seeing what changes you made or were proposed or that type of thing. So I don't know if I'm ready to vote on it today either. Okay. The other part is one of the things that we had talked about when we were putting together the general plan, and this is related to District 5. We have and I don't know if that would be any part of the changes that are being proposed. We have a diverter at Peach and Butler, and that was put in there, I believe when the IRS was built. And my understanding was that the only way that diverter would come out is once housing was built to the east. There's a big empty parcel east of that diverter, and only at that time would it come out, which I'm okay with all that. That was the plan. When we approved the general plan, that was a meeting that we had at the convention center. And that's why I was interested in seeing those maps, see if there's any changes, plus other that I would call, like hot spots in the district that we're kind of tuned into. So that's, and plus what other changes you would have. So, not just seeing them, to me, I'm seeing these maps in color for the first time.
Okay.
But all I'm seeing in this book is squares with street names and that type of thing. But I'm interested in the designations that are being proposed. I know you had your community meetings and all that, and I appreciate that. But I don't know that I'm specifically interested in District 5, of course. So anyway, just wanted to make those comments and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Quintero. Councilmember Brand?
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Lee.
Been there a long time. Yes. I mean, this process started really back at the general plan, alternate A, general plan, development code. So let me first say thank you for city manager, city attorney, Jennifer Clark, Dan Zach, everybody in the staff for enormous change in the city. I mean, the development code was, what, 50, 60 years since it was done?
Right, 1962.
Yeah, so anyway, we've came a long way. And what I'm hearing tonight from some of my colleagues is that, there's certain people that may have been, fallen through the cracks that weren't notified. And when our city attorney comes this way, I'll ask him, but what is the normal, is there a prescribed way to notice on these zoning changes? Or just generic guidelines?
The way the old development code and the new development code directs us to do it is that if a small group of parcels is being affected, you notify within 1,000 feet by direct mail. If over 1,000 notices would have to go out, then we're allowed to advertise in the newspaper, as Sophia explained, with a general circulation newspaper, and as that sets forth. So we did that because we were well over 1,000 parcels that would need to be notified, and then we did the Sunday insert as an extra on top of that to try to reach people that might not be reached by the regular legal notice.
Right. But, I mean, the only way they could possibly get everybody would be you'd have to almost send an individual notice to every property owner, right? Mm-hmm. And even then, if I'm thinking if some people don't speak English, would they be in Spanish and, other languages? I know when we did the notice on the water rates, I think the second go around, it was done to every ratepayer, city manager, and it was done in English and Spanish. So I'm not sure that's the answer. I think what I raised the last time with the development code was to make sure there was provisions that we would, I think it was a text amendment, we could come back within a certain period of time, and somebody would have, if we vote tonight, it would have an opportunity to make amends on some of the issues that came up. And I'm sure there's probably other people out there that have not even aware of the changes. So, but I would say realistically, it's almost impossible with 500-something thousand residents and probably a couple 100,000 parcels to get every single person. I think if you mailed everybody, certain people would probably throw their mail away. So I think as long as we're making a bona fide effort, to reach people, a legal effort. City attorney, have we met every legal requirement as far as noticing?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So it's just a question of being fair and reasonable, making sure people have the opportunity to get their stuff. I'll call you back again, Dan. Okay. I want to address a few of the people that came up. I took some notes. I want to make sure I got it right on Jeff, you want to come up? Okay. Well, I'm going to defer. Paul's going to take care of the audits. Thanks, Jeff. Paul's going to take that one.
Okay.
Thank you. Doug Jensen?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Fine.
Okay, your concern was that, do you want to just simply make an objection on the record, or do you want to actually see an action?
Whatever is the most expeditious. I think maybe to address your notice problem, the problem that I see is, frankly, when there's development near a parcel, then indeed it is mailed notice, and we've gotten a number of them, and it's very helpful. This backzones a piece of property that has been in this client's family since 1941, and if we hadn't found out about it, I suppose it just would have happened, and that would have been the problem. But if it's possible, certainly I would like this property on behalf of our client to remain under its present zoning, which seems to, what should I say, respond to market interests. And So if it can be done,
so
great.
your wish is to keep the present zoning then?
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer or Dan? Mr. Jensen gave us, the parcel numbers of, I think it was 504, 090, 30 through 34. Would you guys have any problem with keeping these parcels under current zoning?
So, Councilmember, thank you for allowing us to respond to that question. We did meet with Mr. Jensen earlier this week. The planned land use in the general plan is high density, multifamily. So it is urban neighborhoods, which is one of our higher density multifamily districts. So essentially we can, because tonight's action and this action is implementing the general plan, there are really two things that could occur that would be consistent with the city's MEIR. One is to allow any property owner who doesn't want to change from the planned land use that was adopted a year ago to a new planned land use tonight. Those are the planned land use amendments. Those are the 20-ish amendments that Dan presented. Or accept the new land use. So there's two choices. So otherwise, we would have to do additional environmental work, which we are very supportive of the opportunity to come back within the next 180 days with a cleanup for specific parcels without a fee to the property owners like we did with the general plan, and to adopt those land uses that met any standards under the MEIR. But going from, say, a CMX to a commercial, or from a high-density residential to an office would not conform to the MEIR. We would need to do additional environmental work before we could actually make that change.
So we don't have that option then?
Correct.
So either we go forward with his comments on the record.
Correct.
That we can come back within 180 days.
Yes.
To resolve it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jensen? Is that okay with you?
We're trying to work with the city. I just raised the issue. If the existing or the prior zoning was in place, I'm not quite sure why you then have to go backwards and do a lot of environmental analysis when it was already there, in fact. But like I said, frankly, over the years, we've tried to work with the city and would continue to do so. So thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, so in your opinion, if we, in this case, decided to keep the zoning the same, is that automatically initiate another environmental review, or do we?
If I may clarify, Councilmember, my understanding is that this particular gentleman is asking for something that would also require a change in his land use designation, which would actually require a further environmental review for the impacts of that change.
Okay. So I don't know if I need to make an amendment, or for the record, that this property would be within 180 days without fees. Jennifer, is that? Okay, without fees, that those parcels as identified by Mr. Jensen would be hopefully resolved between now and within 180 days. Okay, so I don't know if I need to make an amendment for that or just put it on the record, City Attorney?
Yes, I think we have it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay. Doug Begum, come on up.
Yes, thank you.
You made some good points about this whole thing. When you try to make a major change in a city, and you have an existing neighborhood, and you're trying to blend the two together. So your concern was where you're at in your neighborhood, and it's like the Tower District?
Correct.
That across the street, somebody could come in. I guess, is there existing open land, or is there existing development there now?
It's all full. I know of no vacant land. There are some vacant parcels, perhaps a block or so away. And the big vacant parcel I mentioned on the Van Ness and Alhambra is a big concern. But I understand the 110 to 90% and all that stuff. My two big concerns there, Councilmember Brand, is that one, you can start averaging in that encroachment into the 50%, as you know, and I would hope you don't do that. I hope you have a baseline that stays the baseline. And two, you have the streetscape. And I see nothing in here that does not allow this council or some other council in some future date with some aggressive developer to say, 70-foot road, our standard now is 50, we don't need a 70, let's give them 10 feet. And I just think that that'll start destroying these neighborhoods. These older neighborhoods, to have them in the main be painted RS5, when in fact, well, most of the neighborhoods up north got RS4, starts to begin to think that someone had a real loose paintbrush. And I'm hoping that this development code ties that down. And Mr. Zach, we had a conversation and I felt confident, but I'd just like to go on record here that we have concerns because a 13-foot setback versus everyone's 45 feet right now.
Right.
I mean, that's impactive. And the other issue is the fact that you have a lot ratio now that is a lot less than what is stated in the current code. You're increasing that, and the fact that you have lots that are a lot bigger than what the current code is, and now you're even diminishing that now. So remember just a while ago in the southeast, you had a guy take a bunch of 2 or 3 houses down, and Mr. Quintero, you were concerned about that, and he came back and found that the average in the neighborhood was not what the minimum allowed. He came back with a minimum, and everyone went up in arms. And one of the things that I suggested, any of these ought to have a site plan at least posted. You have some kind of dimensional thing in there, but I would hope you actually have a site plan for these older neighborhoods when someone is doing a by right change to an area that either is an empty lot or a tear down. That's
what we've done, I think, that may address that is the meetings I had with Member Soria and Member Brandow is that there's now a 72-hour notice that has to be done on new developments within the Tower District, right? And that when they do the checklist for by right, they actually have to include the specific plan. So the specific plan has setbacks, color requirements, architectural features, etc. That has to be met. So there's no blank check you go right through. And there's a 72-hour notice. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Can I just, the 72-hour notice, though, is just for the committee members.
Right.
So the neighborhood does not get notified.
Okay, but there's at least a mechanism out there. So it's not on the by right.
Right.
Okay. All right.
You remember, Mr. Brown, you're on the Planning Commission when one of our neighbors decided to encroach 10 or 15 feet closer to the thing with a wall, if you remember that. You folks turned it down, thank goodness. And the fact of it is that started edging out the streetscape. And the streetscapes are so important in these older neighborhoods, and we start destroying them with one new development at a time. And that one got through the planning, this Tower District, because someone convinced him that nobody had a problem, and all of a sudden 25 neighbors showed up in front of your planning commission, and you guys turned it down. I'm just hoping we can keep that to a minimum. And on the noticing thing, I don't believe most people know that they've been painted now with RS5 from what they used to have as R1. I believe most people don't understand that. Until this dynamic map, and I credit your staff, and I told Daniel Zach that is a fantastic tool. I really appreciate them doing that. He says it's been up on the net for 2 weeks, and you can sweep across that. You can go to parcels that's got GIS. For a guy like me with my back, I just love that stuff, and you can get a better picture versus a big map compared to another big map, and you'll never get the picture. But most people, Mr. Brown, do not know that their zone districts have changed and got more intensified. And I'm just hoping, because they'll never know until someone does something, there's a lot of protections put into place.
I remember on the Planning Commission, we had all these subdivisions in 2001 through 2006, and we had these lots in Sunnyside that were quarter acre, half acre, and new developments coming directly on them that were 6,000, 7,000 back then. That was, the standard size. That'd be big today. And what I think we used to do, we'd blend them in. We'd say the first on the perimeter would be larger lots to blend in closer. I understand exactly what you're saying. What is the one lot you're talking about that has
Alhambra and Van Ness, northwest corner. It's been a vacant lot. It used to be a great big mansion at one time. One of the parties 30 years ago to be exact, decided to go put a multifamily, what they call senior citizen living, assisted living facility. Was going to go, I believe, 6 to 10 floors. And the project was killed. Basically, it became the resurgence of the Tower District, started the whole Tower District specific plan, and et cetera, and et cetera. The fact of it is, for some reason, it went from R2 to RM3. Well, that's a big jump, huge jump. The area has got a crazy quilt of different zonings because of the old days. They thought they were going to make a big promenade from downtown to the Tower District, called the, whatever that term was in the old days. They thought they were going to have a commercial area going up and down Wishana Van Ness. It didn't happen. So they got CP zones, they got the C zones, various quilt. This straightens that out, but all of a sudden, these that had Cs and RPs and that kind of stuff are consistent, but from an R2 now to RM3, how did that happen? Did someone grease the skids? I went back to look. No one came up here to do it. Somebody, a computer went nuts or something. I'm just hoping you folks catch that, because I believe there are people who are very eager to bring up a 6-story in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Tower District. And if you want the ire of the community to fire back up, let them do that. But now you're giving them an entitlement today, if you vote today.
Thank you, Mr. Vega.
Thank you.
Jennifer or Dan, can I? He brings up some legitimate concerns about the neighborhood setback streets and establishing baselines. So what's your answer to those?
Sure, I'll go through one at a time. Regarding setbacks for infill homes in the single-family areas, there is a provision in the single-family regulations that says any new infill house, regardless of what the regular setback is for that zone, you must take an average. If it's a built-out area, you must take an average of the block, and the new home has to be within 10% of that average. So the idea is to not allow, if everybody's 40 feet back, and I live in the Tower District myself, my house is 40 feet back, so I'm very familiar with these conditions, and if that's the case, then the new house is going to have to match that. Now, if we're talking about a new subdivision on the edge of town where we don't have to match existing things, then those regular setbacks would apply and you go about it as you normally would. But in these existing areas, the key is you have to match. And we really wanted to make sure that that was baked right into this code so that this was addressed very thoroughly, and we feel confident that is. Now, in terms of if somebody is doing an infill house and do they have to submit a site plan that shows that they're doing all of this adequately, a development permit does actually require that a site plan is submitted and that all of the information necessary to verify that you're complying with this is provided, and it would go through the normal review process, including in the Tower District Design Review Committee, and the specific plan design guidelines would apply, and so all that would be as it is today. Regarding the Alhambra lot, that is one of the lots that I was referring to when I mentioned Councilmember Soria that we were already on that, and we already identified that needed to be cleaned up. Staff identified it and had originally included it in this, and we were told we had to wait, so we'll be back with it. And then after that point, when we went to discuss this with the Tower District Design Review Committee, they also mentioned that lot in addition to a few others, and so we're well aware of it, and that will be repaired very soon. Yeah.
So the lot that Mr. Vega referred to, Alhambra and Van Ness?
Van Ness, correct.
Can you explain the zoning from?
Yeah, so on the current map, I believe it's shown as I think it's shown as RM2, a denser multifamily zone. And what it should be and what it will be when we come back before you with the cleanup is it'll be Main Street commercial to match the rest of Olive. That
so it won't be a high density?
Yeah, it'll be. It's a 3-story commercial zone that allows some apartments to be put in above the shops. Also,
will there be an opportunity?
What's that?
Will there be an opportunity for those neighbors to weigh in on this within the next 180 days?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Since we've already identified all this, we think on that one we can be back well before the 180 days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I wanted to add that was mentioned was just in terms of streetscapes and street widths, are not actually part of the development code. They're part of public works standards, and this action tonight, if it's taken, wouldn't affect that one way or the other. That would all be dealt with. Whether a street got narrowed or not has nothing to do with the development code. That would be a public works standard, and that would be dealt with that way.
Thank you, Dan.
Excuse me, Councilman. While you're, can you also address the concern that if a plane falls out of the sky or something happens to an existing home, how the new plan and how that would be treated?
Yeah, so the provision that I was just talking about for the Tower District where the average setbacks are taken and you have to be within 10% of that, that would apply in that situation too. So anywhere that has one of the RS zone districts applied to it, you know, which includes the area where that commenter was mentioning, if the train ran off of the tracks, took out a house, then the new infill home, replacement home would have to follow that setback rule for developed blocks. We want, not just in the historic areas, but everywhere, if it's built out, we want new things that might fill in the empty spaces to have that same compatibility all across the city.
So if there was a 2,000 square foot home sitting on a 9,000 square foot lot, the owner would be able to replace his or her home with a 2,000 square foot home without changing anything else. In other words, they could put it right back the way it was because it would. The minimum is that average, but if they wanted to put it back exactly the way they found it, they could.
That's right.
All right.
That's exactly right. The non-conforming provision gives them those rights.
Okay. Next, Dirk Bushel. So, Dirk, you're asking for what on that parcel, the Hudson Family Trust?
The 1 acre parcel on the corner has been zoned for C5 uses for decades. As a matter of fact, in just speaking to Gilda, she says she remembers that there was a gas station there while she was a child. And so we would like to have general commercial on the 1 acre corner that she owns individually. It's not part of the trust properties.
What's the proposed zoning?
It's light, industrial light.
Industrial light.
Industrial light. And I think it's important too, when we're talking about that corner, that ultimately the Robertson and Hudson trust properties are going to come together through a entitlement process to have shared access, architecture, signage, because really that's the logical way to develop.
They need to be consistent.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we see that their relationship with our properties is a very, very positive component.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Jennifer, or Dan, can you respond to that?
So thank you. In this particular case, the proposed uses that the applicant has suggested would be allowed in industrial light would not be allowed in the land use that is currently adopted under the general plan. So the 2014 general plan land use of corridor mixed use would not allow the types of uses that have been proposed on that corner parcel. Industrial light would, either by itself or as part of a larger development. If there would be other additional, more intensive commercial uses proposed for the site, it would require a general plan amendment and a rezone of that parcel. So if we just wanted to go to commercial general, that would require additional review and study. But for today, if you wanted to do a gas station or if you wanted to do a drive-through food establishment or a sit-down food establishment less than 8,000 square feet, it would be fine. And those all conform with what the applicant so far has proposed. If there are additional, more intensive commercial uses, it would require additional study.
The existing zoning would allow that? The proposed zoning?
The proposed zoning for tonight would allow that, yes.
Okay. Dirk? Is that consistent with your client?
No, I think she still is interested in general commercial. Right. And we understand that there's some complexities with respect to at least the staff's position regarding environmental review, but the property was zoned C5. And we think that general commercial more accurately reflects the potential for the property to develop. Right. And I think as Mr. Reed has expressed on behalf of the Robertson folks, ultimately there'll be a discussion about general commercial on the Robertson property. So that's something to discuss at a later date.
So you'd have to go through a plan amendment?
Yes.
Are you guys willing to do that?
Yes, we have to, because even with respect to the light industrial or industrial light, there is a range of uses, and I don't want to get specific this evening because I don't think that'd be appropriate, but there's a range of uses that we believe that will logically develop on the property that are not allowed in light industrial light.
Okay. Thanks, Stuart. Hey, Jennifer, one more time. So if they decide to go for a plan amendment, the way we're going now, is there a waiver of fees or a reduction, or is there a timeline?
What we had heard from the City Council in December when you asked for us to come back was that after we adopted the land use map, there would be an opportunity, probably very similar to the general plan opportunity of 180 days, that we would be able to come back with any of the additional items that were recommended tonight, but do not have time for additional environmental clearance, that we would do that at no cost to the applicant.
Okay, so if we go on the record as the council is saying to come back and look at it, then it can be done without the fee charged, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We would analyze it, review if there were additional mitigations, and come back very similarly to what we did with the general plan.
Thank you. So if I make do we have 4 people here? Well, we make an amendment to, this is your district, Paul?
Yes, thank you for helping me with this particular item.
If I made an amendment that we would consider this, ask this property to be reconsidered at no fee, City Attorney, if I make an amendment that we could reconsider this property as a plan amendment in the next 180 days, that it would be done without a fee, does that have to just be on the record, or should be a motion to actually?
It should be a motion. Motion to amend the staff's recommendation to continue this item to allow for a plan amendment and rezone consistent with what the property owner is requesting.
At no cost?
At no cost.
Okay, that's my motion.
That's my second.
Okay. Thank you. Finally, Mr. Roberts, Jeff? Okay, you mentioned, I've heard this before, the master CUP for Copper River. So is there anything specific, or you just want to go on the record?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, members of the council, for the record, Jeff Roberts again. The concern that we have is that this tool has been in place since the initial approvals of Copper River Ranch back in 03 and 04. And we've been able to use the provisions of that. And during the adoption of the general plan about a little over a year ago, we lost some of those things, some of those tools that we had. We don't want to take that chance, and we want to preserve the ability to use the CUP and all its provisions that it contains. As you're well aware, there's other things that do need to come back so we can hopefully retrieve some of those issues, and maybe that's going to be done in the next 6 months. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's mainly on the record that you want us to come back and clarify these items.
Yeah, our concern though is that we want to have a seamless movement from old zoning into new zoning with the ability to use what we've been doing with the master CUP. So we want to preserve the rights and the ability to do that.
Okay.
And that's why we wanted to speak here tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, Council President, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bushel, I think you had one more comment on that particular item.
Just briefly, Councilman Brand, what I understand your motion has to do with the 1 acre on the corner, because the residual portion of the Hudson Family Trust, it's industrial light, we're fine with that designation this evening. We'll continue to work with staff with respect to the range of uses and how it changes. We don't have an answer this evening. Our particular interest this evening was general commercial on the 1 acre corner.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're okay.
We're fine. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, Member Soria.
For clarification, is the grace period going to be across the board with that motion to continue? I guess I'm trying to figure out what was the...
It's my impression that that's true, but we have to ask the city attorney.
My understand that Councilmember Brand's motion was that specific to that parcel.
Okay. Is there an answer for Member Soria's question? Is it across the board, the 180 days? Anybody?
The council member could add another motion to amend to include it to be across the board. But Councilmember Brand's motion was parcel specific.
Okay.
So yours just was specific to that parcel, or were you establishing a grace period?
Just to that parcel.
Just for that parcel.
I think we've established, 180 days as for any concerns that come up on any, be the people tonight or people that may come up in the next 180 days.
Yeah, I think that was my question. I wanted to just clarify whether the grace period would apply to everyone.
Absolutely.
So after we approve it.
Yes.
So that would be the next time that we bring it forth.
Whenever it's
Yeah, whenever we, okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify because I think that it's important given kind of the conversation that we've had this evening and obviously some of the concerns that have been brought forth. I believe that there is a need for there to be a grace period to address some of the other issues, and I think that in terms of notice, if we can work on the notice to be out in Spanish so that we have a good amount of notice before we bring it back, I would really appreciate that. And the other, I guess, question that I wanted to ask, if individuals bring up a concern during that 180-day grace period, are there any fees associated, or would just...
What our understanding is of the council's direction is that there would not be any fees for that within that 180 days, and so that is how we're intending to go about it, unless we get other direction.
Okay, perfect. Now, that's what I wanted to just ensure that was clear, so there would be no fees if the change occurs during that time. Okay, thank you.
Council, can I clarify what the motion is, because I'm not clear. Councilmember Brand talked about this one parcel being able to do a general plan amendment as well as a rezone within 180 days without a fee. Are we also suggesting that any member of the public can do a general plan amendment and rezone without a fee within 180 days, or only a rezone consistent or a variation of what we're doing tonight within 180 days?
Now you're going off in a different direction. I'll let Jennifer, if you think that's practical. I was being specific on this item. My comments were made generically that within 120 days, this discussion, like Mr. Jensen, we didn't make a motion to make an amendment, that he'd have an opportunity within that period of time to work with his client, with the city staff to find a resolution.
With your permission, if I could reframe maybe that discussion. So if a member of the public came in and said, I have a property that was zoned commercial prior to the general plan going into effect, the general plan changed that designation to a mixed-use designation or urban neighborhood designation, and we would like to, for the staff to review going back to the prior designation. We could certainly review that and evaluate and determine if environmentally it fit within the umbrella and bring that back to this council. I think that's what I'm hearing that you're asking is, can we go back to that, not just a unilateral, I have a 300-acre development and I want a free general plan amendment. So I think what I'm hearing is specific parcels where people say, I would like to go back to my original designation, that we could evaluate those under the new MEIR. Is that
without a fee? Yeah, that's globally. That's what my intent.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councilmember Soria?
That does answer my question. The other thing, I don't know if it's possible to put it on our website in the front page, maybe like a button that says we're updating doing a zoning update, and then that the zoning comparison map, the interactive map, the link can actually be there, because I just actually tried to go find it, and you had to click like 5 different locations. And so I think for any citizen out there, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to get it. So if we can put it front and center somewhere on the front page of the city's website, I think I would encourage that, so that people can easily access it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintero.
Yeah. Dan? It's all right. Yeah. My apologies. The black and white maps are in here, but the city clerk showed me the originals. Anyway, they were printed in color but came out black and white. So, but I was able to check over the areas that I was concerned with, and even after, and I'll be prepared to vote on this tonight. But if you could give me a call and maybe meet with me on a couple. Once again, I just need a clarification on
Sure.
on some of the areas in District 5, and I would really appreciate that.
I'll follow up tomorrow.
So, okay, thank you, sir.
Well, listen, the screen is clear at this moment. I had a couple of questions on Mr. Kalchik. Well, that's right, you can stay there for a moment. I was going to ask Dan or Ms. Clark, is there a way to remedy the concerns he has for R1C to RS3?
His general plan designation is residential medium low, which converts to the RS4. He feels that RS3 would be a better match for the character of his neighborhood as it is now. If the council agreed and wanted us to pursue that, then there would need to be a general plan amendment to that area to make it residential low rather than medium low, and then that would translate to the RS3, and then they would match. If we just went to the RS3, that would be inconsistent with the planned land use, and it has to be consistent. So we would need to change the general plan land use also, but if we have that direction, that's absolutely possible.
Well, I'd like to give you that direction, if I may, to work with them and see what we can do to kind of make it fit everybody's ideas and what's best for our community at large and the portals in particular, since it's in my district. That'd be great. Thank you.
You bet.
And then I wanted to add a motion to, per the owner's, property owner's request, I'd make a motion to remove APN 456-030-15 from the proposed general plan amendment A-15-007 and for application R-15-016, zone the property consistent with the adopted general plan land use to CMX, corridor mixed use. Do I have a second on that? Second by Member Brand. Okay. I think everyone's been kind of, their issues have been addressed to a degree, and I think everybody's kind of on the same page as to what your remedies and rights are under this this program. So if I'm mistaken, let me know. But I think we're okay, but that will be the extent of my comments, other than I need to officially close public comments. So officially, it's closed. Member Brown.
I'd like a motion that we approve the item tonight as amended.
Okay. Okay. The screen is clear. We have a motion to approve with amendments. Motion by Member Brand, seconded by Member Olivier. All those in favor? Aye. And those opposed? 6-0 with Councilmember Brandow absent. Thank you, staff, and thank you, everyone in the audience, for participating and helping us get this on the right track. Okay, now I think we're going to adjourn, but I did want to adjourn in the loving memory of Armelia O. Harrison Green, as per Councilmember Baines' request. So we'll adjourn in memory of that wonderful lady, and y'all have a good evening. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Meeting is adjourned.